I'm Hugh Hewitt. I put out an invitation to all the remaining presidential candidates every week that they're on the debate. Doug Burgum joins me. Governor, what did you make of Wednesday night? The last time you said you thought there were going to be rules. This time you kind of interrupted too. So what did you think of the setup and the format and the rules?
Well, I'd say, Hugh, first of all, great to be with you, and wish you were moderating the next one. But it was, they stated the rules. They didn't follow them at all. Of course, they were not. They were letting some people go longer. Other people, they were threatening to shut off their microphones, specifically me. Yes, I interrupted. Thank goodness I did. Otherwise, my first question would have been 40 minutes in. I didn't come to the debate to observe. I came to be part of a political debate, not part of a constructed political theater where it's designed with the open mics to create content that create a conflict between Republican candidates that then the network can use to pump up their, clickbait and their viewership. But because it's not helpful. I mean, the reason I'm there is to help the American voter. The American voters have an expectation from history that at a political debate, a presidential debate, should be to help them understand their choices of what the candidates are, and the moderators should be trying to press the candidates on their depth of knowledge on topics. And I'm up there as the only governor of an energy state, and they have a discussion on energy, and they don't ask. I don't get asked a question. When I try to insert, I'm threatened to be shut down. When they were talking about the border, I'm the one that's actually got troops down there flying helicopter missions from San Diego to the Gulf. Don't get a question. And when asked to insert, said, nope, we're going to somebody else. When we were talking about the economy, I've got more business experience. I've created more jobs than all the other candidates on stage. Literally didn't get a question on the economy or an opportunity to really even interject on it. And then on China, which is the most important topic of all, national security, is when I was in 1989, I was a kid. I was an entrepreneur starting a company. My first trip to China as a business person, 1989, I walk into a street market and there's Great Plains Software being sold for $1 a disc for a 5 1/4 inch floppy when we were selling it for $5,000 a module. So I've had my intellectual property being ripped off by China for 34 years, and other people have figured out in the last couple months that China is a problem. And then I can't even fight my way in on that conversation. So we fought for every minute we got. Clearly, there's an agenda to try to, pick the winners, reduce the number of candidates now, not let the voters in Iowa and New Hampshire do that, but to have the network do that. And, and whether that's in collaboration with RNC or not, who knows. But I'm just going to keep fighting for the American people and on these issues, the economy, energy, national security. These matter, and we're going to have to find every outlet we can to make sure people know that they have a choice. They've got a fighter that has experience in these areas more than the other candidates and can actually drive solutions, because that's what we've done in North Dakota.
Governor, the key question that wasn't asked. Donald Trump is the front runner by a lot, both nationally and in the Iowa and New Hampshire polls. He was a commander-in-chief for 4 years, and he got rid of al-Baghdadi. He crushed ISIS. He killed Soleimani. He moved the Israeli embassy. He got the Abraham Accords done. Why would Doug Burgum be a better commander-in-chief than former President Trump returning to the office?
Well, I'm going to say that, let's say this, Hugh, which, of course, I'm running versus Joe Biden, and I will be a better commander-in-chief than Joe Biden, because Joe Biden's policies are all about appeasement. Our withdrawal from Afghanistan, greenlighting the invasion into Ukraine, the fact that our energy policies allowing all of Western Europe to get dependent on Russian energy was the reason why we have the Putin invasion. And what's going on at the southern border, where we've got the equivalent of 6 states. We've got Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Rhode Island, Joe Biden's home state of Delaware, and Montana are the number of people that we've processed into this country, quote, seeking asylum, under Joe Biden. But then there's another 1.5 million called known gotaways that are on the dashboard of the Border Patrol when I'm down there getting a...
But Governor, in all due respect, that is like Vivek's answer on TikTok, meaning I won't answer your question, Hugh. Why are you better than Donald Trump, who you have to beat first if you're going to go take on Joe Biden or whoever becomes their nominee? Why are you better than Donald Trump?
Well, Hugh, I would say in the complex world that we're in today, it's more than just sending troops. It's more than just exhibiting strength, which we need to do and which Donald Trump did. It's also understanding that there are really 4 levels. We got the diplomacy, which includes what we can do in building relationships with our allies as well as our enemies, and we can do a better job of strengthening our relationships with our allies. Number two is the information war that we're in. We're in a cyber war right now, and there's nobody else on the stage. And if Donald Trump was there, also included, that's got 30-plus years in the tech industry. I understand software. I understand cyber. I understand cybersecurity. I understand what's going on right now as a sitting governor. And there's a cyber war happening every day, and the leaders of that include Iran, Russia, North Korea, China, our four biggest enemies attacking us every day. There's the military piece, of course, which you've mentioned, which we can drive forward. And then economically, you have to understand how the economy works. And with China, it's not about, let's just cut some trade deals and put on some tariffs. They're importing 10 million barrels of oil a day. They're more dependent on imports than any other nation in the world. And here we are. We've got 4 Biden officials over there this year, and not one of them talks about using U.S. energy as the primary dominant tool for forcing any kind of economic sanctions with China. Hey, we're gonna be a player in changing your energy future, unless you stop shipping fentanyl that's killing, 5 Vietnams worth of people in the U.S. right now. So diplomacy, cyber war, military, economic, a person has to have experience and understanding of how all those work together in today's world, because we may never get to a kinetic war. The war could be all economic and all cyber.
Governor, I want to pick up on your tech background, a question that was sort of asked but got lost. Artificial intelligence is on many people's lips. It's in many companies' business plans. How ought, if at all, the government of the United States to regulate its emergent artificial intelligence industry?
Well, we need guardrails. We need that. But I'll tell you, I'm going to say guardrails, not regulations, because my experience in the 30 years is that there's one group that does not know how to regulate just about anything. They certainly know how to regulate the energy industry, higher education, healthcare. Any place the government gets involved in. I say innovation, not regulation, is how we get our economy sprinting. It's how we win the Cold War. And that's absolutely true. But in artificial intelligence, there has to be some guardrails to protect things like intellectual property and like privacy. There has to be certainly guardrails about that. But we've got to put the pedal down. This is like a nuclear arms race. People that are saying that, hey, we should slow down our investment in AI in the U.S., if you're reading that online, it's probably a Russian or Chinese bot that's saying it, because they're concerned about our lead in artificial intelligence.
But when we did nukes and when we did armaments government, we did it at places like the Skunk Works. We did it where no one else knew what was going on. Right now, it's kind of being done in the open and released daily. Is that a good model?
Well, I don't know that this is, if we try to put that back in the bottle, I don't think that's going to work, because this is software by itself is the greatest invention in mankind of extending human capability, and it's built into everything we do. Whether it's the car you drive or the radio you're listening to today, it doesn't matter what it is. Any medical service you get, there's software built into that. Every combine, every tractor, and now we come along when we've got artificial intelligence, which is like supercharged software that's got super capabilities and has the ability to understand language like humans. I mean, and that is a free tool for us to use. When we talk about the government spending too much, and there's a free tool that is an assistant that speaks 26 languages and can write software code, and we don't have enough software coders in our country. These are tools that have an opportunity to dramatically improve the way of life for Americans and people around the world. If applied correctly, yes, they can be weaponized, but the upside for this is dramatic in a world where we've got, people that are still don't have basic needs or health care, even in our own country.
Now, Governor, I don't think there is a good agency right now to handle this issue, to put guardrails in. I don't think there's the technical competence that you, for example, have, and I do not. But how would you set that up? I mean, you're going to be the President of the United States. You aspire to that. What would you do on day one to make sure that AI does not become a self-fulfilling prophecy of technology run amok?
Well, you're absolutely correct that the expertise does not exist at the government level to do this, and it certainly doesn't exist in our elected officials. And I, have seen this for decades. You go back to, the late 1990s or 5 years ago. You get the leaders of technology in front of a Senate hearing, and if you're in tech, It's actually embarrassing to the
Oh, it's painful. I'm not in tech, and it's still cringe-inducing.
Yes, yeah, and I was there for one, and I was there in 1998 when there was the discussion about does Microsoft have too much power? I sat through all 6 hours of that with Orrin Hatch and Senator Kennedy, and he was trying to explain to them then that by the time they come up with some kind of regulation on tech, it might take them 4 to 6 to 8 years to actually implement it and then figure out a way to monitor it and see if people are following it. Meanwhile, Moore's Law has advanced, 4 times, which means every 18 months you're doubling the power and cutting the price in half of a computer chip. And by the time they'd implement the regulation, there'd already be an innovation that would totally wipe out and make irrelevant the regulation. And that's what's going to happen with AI when they try to regulate what's here now. And then 6 months from now, we've got something that's an order of magnitude more capable. And so they won't be able to keep up with it. They'll fail if they try to somehow put it back in the box with we're going to just stop progress because we're afraid. They have to be willing, and as when I'm your president, part of what we have to do is get the people that are actually in the industry. There are people that understand this that actually want the guardrails also, but there has to be collaboration in this case with our industry and with that industry, with the defense industry. We've got to rebuild our defense capability, and we've got to get the technical people working with our defense. Our defense procurement process is so broken. I was talking to one of the small suppliers last night. He's 40% of the U.S.'s small military defense companies have all gone out of business in the last decade because everything goes to the big providers because they're the ones that have enough lawyers to be able to sort through, all of the red tape associated with procurement. Then we can't do things like, give Taiwan Harpoon missiles now as opposed to, we'll get them to you in 2027. Because and when we say stuff like that out loud in the Biden administration, I mean, I think, anyone would understand if you're the General Secretary Xi, you'd be like, well, maybe we should invade in 2026 if the missiles are coming to Taiwan in 2027.
Last question, Governor, because I got 1 minute left. Why would you be the best electoral choice for Republicans? Why, in other words, would you be a better candidate for actually winning than Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis or Nikki Haley or anyone else on that stage?
Well, because I can actually win. I mean, this election is going to occur. 43 states are already baked. It's 7 swing states. In those 7 swing states, there's 20 counties. In those 20 counties, in those 7 swing states, those 20 counties are not. The rural states are red. Red's going to win that. Blue, urban's going blue. In those swing counties, it's going to be middle-aged. It's going to be college-educated women that are the swing voters that decide this election. And we know which households they're in, and we know the message it's going to take to win with them. And so we started from the beginning running a campaign that would allow us to win November of 2024, not just win a few primary states. So we're in the best position to win. We've thought about that, and we know, beginning with the end in mind, that we've got a strategy that will put us in the White House.
Governor Doug Burgum, very nice to talk to you again this morning. Thank you for spending time with me on the Friday after the debate. I know it's a busy schedule. Thank you.
Thank you, Hugh, for having me on. I appreciate all the work you do, and I hope you do get to moderate like you have done in the past.
We'll see. Thank you, Governor.